Operation Barbarossa. On 22nd of June 1941, Hitler invaded Soviet in a preemptive attack. This German preemptive strike saved Europe from the Red Army, at least for a while. Stalin was about to strike Western Europe with 3 million soldiers when getting caught with their pants down as German soldiers carried belt buckles engraved with the words "Gott mit uns," God with us, entered their now anti-Christian Red Land. From the Baltic to the Black Sea, German soldiers were getting into positions to launch the invasion. The most brutal battles in recorded history took place along the Eastern Front, which stretched back to Germany through the Soviet Union, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, the Balkans, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, and the Baltic states. In these landscapes, Europe's bravest soldiers sacrificed their lives to liberate Europe from the terror of the Bolsheviks. Ukrainians, Russians, Estonians, Latvians, and other Eastern Europeans welcomed the Germans as they were liberated from the slavery and torture previously endured under Soviet hands. Local women blessed the Germans as they passed. Women gave the soldiers food, and the soldiers even helped them restoring homes and churches.
The German villages, what was left of us, was herded into the cattle trains and shipped to Siberia. And quite a few villages really disappeared that way, and it was literally a matter of hours, if not minutes, until our turn in Halbstadt came. And I understand that actually half of Halbstadt was exiled. And we were already sitting at the railroad station. This was September 1941, when the German army overran the Ukraine and stopped the exiling, stopped the trains. They stopped the trains. And it was to us as if the Lord had sent us the angels. Here were people who spoke German, who spoke High German, who stopped the terror that had been upon us for 25 years, who came and opened the churches for us and said, you can have all the services you want. It was like heaven. My mother, to the day she died, never stopped talking about the wonderful 2 years that she had with the German army. When the German army came and took over the villages, they moved in on us. They took over the houses. We gave them gladly. They could have. My grandmother started cooking as if cooking went out of fashion, and it was magnificent when the Germans came. And they set up apparently certain headquarters there. They had some radio broadcasts, certain stations and so on, but most of them moved, of course, ran over us and moved east in their fight toward Moscow, in their push toward Moscow. But some stayed back, and we were absolutely convinced that the Germans had come to save us from communism. And never was there any reason for us to change our minds. Why should we? The Germans were heroes in our eyes.
As the Germans advanced east, millions of Russians refused to fight for Stalin and instead surrendered to the Germans. Stalin's tyranny was hated by every freedom-loving Russian, so hated in fact that whole formations surrendered and volunteered to fight for the Germans instead, taking back their motherland from the terror of Jewish Bolshevism. Hitler viewed communism as a poison to Europe and decided that his life's purpose was to root out and destroy it. The Germans had nothing against the Russians as people, but instead against communism. Many Russians volunteered to fight for Hitler instead. Nearly 500,000 Russian volunteers served on the front lines, and another 100,000 or more serving in other non-combat positions. The anti-communist soldiers of the Russian Liberation Army wore German uniforms with a Russian patch. In 1944, it was officially renamed the Armed Forces of the Committee for the Liberation of the Peoples of Russia. They were led by General Andrei Vlasov, but under German high command. They fought bravely, primarily in key roles against the communist partisans. General Vlasov and Heinrich Himmler met and ironed out details of the formation of a massive new army composed of Russians. They went over what was called the Smolensk Manifesto, written in 1942, which outlined goals of liberating Russia from the communist occupation. It stipulated that in the new Russia, every people will obtain national freedom, including the right of self-determination. The realization of this right to national independence and freedom is possible, however, only after destroying Stalin and his clique. Himmler and Vlasov agreed that there would initially be 5 divisions organized from Russian POWs and workers from the occupied Eastern territories, whose number by then had reached over 5 million. Hitler also formed the Einsatzgruppen, units for the necessary removal of the bloodthirsty Jewish Bolshevik leadership from the Soviet cities. Criminal communist partisans were executed and hanged as punishment for what they had done to the Christian Russians. Stalin was now rumored to have suffered a breakdown. Adolf Hitler explained, "You probably all felt that this was a bitter and difficult step for me. The German people have never had hostile feelings towards the peoples of Russia. During the last 2 decades, however, the Jewish Bolshevist rulers in Moscow have attempted to set not only Germany, but all of Europe aflame. Germany has never attempted to spread its National Socialist worldview to Russia. Rather, the Jewish Bolshevist rulers in Moscow have constantly attempted to subject us and the other European peoples to their rule. They have attempted this not only intellectually, but above all through military means. The results of their efforts in every nation were only chaos, misery, and starvation."